Um,
Wow,
well, I'm
Canada
so
is
glad that
not.
we can meet today and do some good and spread. Mickey, it's because of you that I took Graham's class, and I loved it, and I'm so glad that we can get the word out because it was just deeply empowering. Everyone wants to know what you can do as the individual, but it feels so overwhelming. Just where do you start? So, Graham, will you kind of give us a breakdown about the Carbonauts and what the
Yeah,
class consists of and all that?
absolutely. Quick background. I'm undercover Canadian. Sorry, Mickey.
Love Canadians.
Are you kidding?
They're the best.
They're just putting you in a jail for 2 weeks right now.
No, this is sensible. That Canadians are sensible.
Yeah, hopefully.
Sorry.
I studied architecture and product design, so very much a design background. And then I ended up getting into internet stuff really early and had some success in Seattle. That gave me the opportunity to be a little more choosy about what I wanted to do with my life. And I just had always leaned towards environmental stuff. So I started in basically 2000. I worked on a plant-based air filter, which got me into green. Wasn't entirely successful. Just basically didn't get the product to where we wanted, but really got me excited about green. So I was a total change man at that point. Had an idea for treehugger.com, which I ended up starting in 2004. And Treehugger doesn't feel, I mean, it's still a fantastic site. I shouldn't insult it in any way because I love it. It was very different at the time. It was really innovative. Environmental media wasn't designed forward. It was stop this, stop that. It was just not for someone who could wear a collared shirt and live in the city. And we did something really cool and positive and pro-business, and we tried to welcome all parties on the platform. And so we were very quickly the biggest green website on the web. And I did that for a number of years and then ended up selling to Discovery, and Discovery was terrific, and they did a really good job. And so Treehugger is still going. It served billions of pages, and the idea there was just to try to mainstream green, so a lot of awareness. Then I worked on small living through a group called Life Edited. So I did a bunch of really cool small transforming apartments, all about living with less, sort of figuring out basically the greenest thing you can do is sort of in architecture is really try to live in a smaller space that does more. And so we did a lot of very cool projects, including an off-grid house in Maui. And then a couple of years ago, I decided real estate ultimately wasn't for me. I didn't want to be a developer, and started to think about what I wanted to do. And what I realized was that one thing the environmental movement had done very well is build awareness. And so, we have very high awareness. But the challenge is that the climate does not care at all about how aware we are. It doesn't care about how we feel. It doesn't care about how we think. It cares about our actions. It cares about what we do. And so for the average person, I also realized it's when you might care, you sit down to try to figure it out at your computer probably, and within minutes you throw up your arms because there's so much information and so much misinformation that it's just not easy. And so people have busy lives. And so the Carbonauts at carbonauts.com, our mission is to make it easy. And so we focus on the big five, which are the 5 most impactful things you can do to reduce your footprint for most people. And we've developed it into it's now 5 classes, 5 one-hour sessions, 1 a week for basically within 30 days. And we lead people through the why you would do this, and then the how, get very specific and help people to take action. And so it was great that you guys took the course. You, of course, know all about this. And yeah, I think a big part of what we're trying to solve is that for most of our society, if you talk to them about green, they tend to talk about recycling. And I'll tell you a very quick story on that, but it's just not about recycling. And we, for the most part, we probably want to recycle, but we need to understand what things really matter and focus on those. In the same way that if you are trying to lose some weight, if you ate 6 donuts after dinner and you had sugar in your coffee, the thing that you want to focus on is probably the donuts before the sugar-free coffee kind of thing. So you want to know the big stuff. And so quick story, and then I'm done. There's a guy named Peter Kalmus, a local climate change scientist, and he tells a story of a blogger on a plane to Asia, sort of talking about how they were proud they bought their reusable water bottle so that they didn't have to use any of the water bottles on the plane. And Peter says, that's like great, like good for you, do that, but also understand that the flight to Asia is the equivalent of 100,000 water bottles. And so part of what we're trying to do with Carbonauts is get people to understand scale, focus on the stuff that matters. And our society is mostly focused on recycling, which we likely want to do, but they're much bigger things. So the big 5 are, and we're going to talk about some of these today, the big 5 are renewable energy, electric driving, like electric vehicles, lowering your driving. You're making me nervous, Nicholas.
Yeah.
I'm like, do I know them? Plant-rich diet, composting, and reducing food waste. We lump those together. Flying, reducing and optimizing, and offsets. And so that's what we focus on in the five sessions. And yeah, in 30 days, people are really liking it, and we're getting 20, 30, 40, 40% reductions in their footprints. And the big idea here, and then I'm done, the big idea is that if we can get a small percentage of our society to live low footprint lives, like a few percent, that's actually a big number, and that's when government will notice, and that's when corporations will notice, and that's when we'll get the policies that we need and the investment that we need that allows the rest of everyone to lower their footprints and pull us back from the brink.
I loved that percentage, that trend tipping point, and you sent me the article about it, and it's 3.5%.
Yes.
Say that again.
That's it. It's
how many?
3.5%. 3.5.
So we use that. It's not an entirely fair reference, but I'm okay with that. So let me tell the listeners. So it's the 3.5% comes from a woman named Erica Chenoweth from Harvard, and she studied 100 social movements or so in the past 100 years, and concluded that if 3.5% of the population were to protest regularly, that's when the government would topple. And so we're not trying to topple the government, very clearly. But the point is that it can be a small number. And so we really want to build a movement of people and build the social norms, really, such that we get that small percentage, because that's probably all it takes for us to really turn this thing around.
So right now we have about 200 viewers. Hi to all the viewers. So essentially what you're saying is if we had about 6 people come away from here right now and like change their lifestyle to like low footprint, that's how we do this, right?
Yeah, we have to get the entire society on this InstaLive.
Right.
But yes.
Well, 214 people at the start. Guys, it's up to you.
Yeah, that's what I think is so inspiring about your class, is empowering the individual. It's not just these sweeping blanket statements that feel so overwhelming and how am I going to do this? It's really, I mean, Graham makes you calculate how you live your life and then slowly how you can knock that down. It's really powerful, and it makes it less overwhelming. Even though the changes are big changes that you make, it's still, they're accessible and they count.
I'm curious, what was the biggest shock to you in your lifestyle? Like what, for me, like my travel, like regardless of all the stuff that I'd already done to my house, it sort of was all it was nothing in compared to then how much traveling I did.
100,000 water bottles. Yeah, a plane flight.
Yeah.
Well, and you have families scattered about the world, and
he just booked a show in Australia. We're like, okay, Graham, we got to talk about the offset.
Graham has us bicycling on a canoe there somehow. I don't know.
It's very difficult, and all of us share this one for sure.
But what I really liked about what you had to say about that, because I hadn't taken the class, and everything that I've been taught has been, from Kelsey, and of course, by way of Mickey as well, is that the idea that saving trips, and doing things where you can get a lot of them all done at the same time, or if you're moving in one direction, to kind of plan them out so much more instead of these haphazard of like, let's just take off here. But, holding on to trips until A, they're absolutely necessary, and then B, killing, three birds with one stone kind of thing of, or taking multiple destinations that are close together or something.
It's the consciousness around it, that it's not just, I'm going to go travel and not think about what I'm doing. That it's the consciousness that matters potentially the most.
Or strict elimination, which, we can't all do. And there still is, family to be seen and things to be done. But, looking at it as we don't always have one big trip every year, that sometimes you can wait and hold on and try to put them all together and don't do it as often. Do things more locally.
Stacking trips, terrific. Or doing going for less trips but longer, also great. So I mean, it's tough. I'm a son of an airline pilot. I've been to 90 countries. I love travel more than anything. But what this last year, was it bad because of the lack of travel? That was part of it, but it was
bad because of a lot of other stuff.
Bad a lot of other stuff. So you can do it, and but it just takes conscious and planning is the big one. Planning, like I have a godson who's getting christened in like the fall. It's Europe, which is very far from LA, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'm sort of committed to this, so I'll make a big trip of it. I'll go spend some time in New York, and I'll try to make it a big thing. And I'm lucky that I'm able to do that because I work virtually. But everyone needs to do what they can, and we also, this is not about pointing fingers at people. And like you might have family in Australia or like it's something you have to deal with. But it's all just about us getting more conscious and really starting to do what we can and understanding the big things that you can do in your life and trying to focus on those as much as possible.
And speaking of that, can we jump into the first topic that I think really got me? This was like the jump off point to get me super excited. And I feel like, Mickey, you made a lot of these changes right away too, which is how to electrify your home and make your home more responsible. We've all spent a ton of time at home last year, so this one feels like it hits home. What can you kind of give us the breakdown on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the home often, like utilities basically, is often 20, 30, 40%. Like it really depends of your overall footprint. So it can be a big chunk. Part of that is going to be electricity already. Part of it might be natural gas. The future is electric. And the future is electric because basically things that are electric can be a lot more efficient. They'll use less overall energy, which is great. We like efficiency, but also because we can create green electricity. And so the first concept is you want to electrify your life as much as possible, whether that's your car or your stove or your water heater, etc. So trying to move away from natural gas. The natural gas has done a fantastic job of framing it so that it feels clean and modern, etc. It's basically methane. It's filthy stuff. It has really high greenhouse gas emissions. And we want to move away from it. Plus their health effects. It literally, you don't want that stuff in your house.
That was shocking to me. Mickey, did that shock? Like, I had this impression that maybe like it was bad to cook on an electric stove, or I don't even know where I got that.
I did too, actually. I had a completely like a non-scientific opinion about an electric stove. And actually that was the one thing that we haven't changed in our house yet, is we still have our gas range because, and it was, and I think that that's something great about your course is that you give the information, but you're also like aware that people can't just go taking out their appliances immediately. And it's like, okay, like when you're ready and when you need to update, or if you're moving house, like make sure that you're going like electric.
Yes.
And I think that was a really cool thing that I learned. But yeah, I had no idea about the difference between a gas stove and electric.
Same.
No clue. And also
so
we changed our our washing machine and our dryer to electric too.
Did you actually have a gas dryer?
No, we're all electric.
But did you have a gas dryer before?
Well, because we moved into a new house. So actually Chris, my husband, he's actually the brains about all of this. I'm just like, sure. And then I did the course, and then and a lot of the stuff we had already done because Chris had done all this like amazing research. But so we didn't have a washer dryer, but then we had the ability to put in the.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So a couple of just points on that. One is just that it's important that we differentiate between electric stove and induction. So they're both electric, but there's sort of a leftover reputation, which is fair, I think, in that like inductions are great to cook on. Generally electric, the old electric stoves, not so great, slow to warm up, hot, etc. So induction is a different way of doing it. And I think that early induction stovetops probably not great, but they're great now. So lots of Michelin star chefs give it the thumbs up. They're terrific. They're safe. Good. So they're good for kids. They're way easier to clean than a gas stove with all its nooks and crannies. They heat up much faster than gas. They got really fine controls for heating, and so they're terrific. That's something you want to change up if you can, when you can. The earlier the better. Yeah. The big one in your house is the hot water heater. So that's often 50% of your gas bill. And there are heat pumps. So heat pumps are a new technology, or I guess new in the mainstream technology, that are very, very efficient, like 4 times as efficient as your normal hot water heater. And so they cost, like solar, they cost a little bit more up front, but they are definitely worth it. You make up for it within a few years. And so you can get a electric hot water heat pump and replace your gas one. That'll slash your gas use.
Now, is that different from on-demand water heaters?
Yes, that is different. So
because the on-demand might still be gas, but
yeah, and they often are.
Do you have a recommendation of where someone can go get one of those?
You can literally go to like Home Depot. So they're pretty widely available. Yeah.
Home Depot.
Home Depot.
Now, is that in Europe only?
Is this
No, that's really good to Nick and I are getting ready to, well, he's going to drop his bags and then be gone, but to move into our new home. And so these are all things we're slowly checking off the list.
Terrific.
We will go to Home Depot.
Yeah. If you're...
I'll come with you.
Yeah, please.
My point was more just they're available
everywhere.
Many places. Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, so anything that sort of heats air or water can be a heat pump. And so like a nice combination for a new home is often to do hydronic, basically the tubes of water or fluid in your floor.
Oh yeah.
And then combine that with a heat pump that's outside typically, and so you can just control it that way, and then it's really quiet. You don't have air blowing around, and so it's a high quality way to live, and you're going to save money over time, and it's a lot more eco than gas.
We saw a bit of that in Canada. We really like that idea.
Yeah. Hot floors in Canada. It's great.
And towels. Maybe get those tubes through the towels.
We did.
Towel rack.
That's great. Okay, so back to renewable energy. So Electrify, basically, the future is electric, and you can see it. So like many cities are actually putting in regulations so that you won't be able to install gas. Like there's a real push against it for good reason, because if we're going to meet environmental goals, we have to get gas out. So that's happening. And then on the electric front, heat pumps, making real progress. And then also everything's basically going to be electric. So so we want that. And that's.
What about solar panels?
So yeah, so the reason you want the other big reason beyond to go electric is that then you can buy, if you can get green power, then you're in great form. And so different ways to get green power. One is through solar panels, and those are great. They tend to be very cost effective over, depends where you are, so it's not always, it doesn't always work. There's a great site called Electrum, where you can put in your details, and it'll sort of run an analysis for your home. But solar often pays off in like 5 to 8 years, and then you basically have free electricity for until 20, 25, 30 years. And so if you can afford it, to buy them up front, great. That's the way you'll make the most money. If you can't, you can still often get a loan if you have good credit, and that can be no money down, and your bills, your electricity bills, literally going to go down right away. So there are various options there, but solar panels on your roof are great in terms of money saving, in terms of moving your electricity to be entirely green, in terms of helping diversify the grid a little bit, so it's not single sources. And it's also great in that it's a visible thing. Some of the moves that you make to go green are not very visible. Solar panels are, and so they say they're contagious, because what tends to happen is people get them on the roofs, and all of a sudden neighbors are talking, and they sort of spread. So
yeah, I think they look really cool. The least important of the things, but they look cool. And we got them, they're being installed shortly on our new home. And for us, maybe because it's in super sunny LA, yeah. It matches the utility bill. Like, it's actually a little bit cheaper, and you get in California a federal tax credit. So yeah, you sign a 25-year contract, but it's the same cost as paying for your electric bill every month. And they, they planned for us to have 110% of our power. And so we can heat other things in our lives and try to really, can you describe, I'm still a little confused on this, maybe other people are, about the rollover, that like if you don't use all of what you collect in the solar panels, you can carry that into.
I don't know the specifics, but yeah, typically it works like that. You'll have some months you might produce more than you use, and so it'll send it back to the grid. Some months might less, and then they usually tally up, kind of thing, at the end of the year, but it probably depends on your system. But that's the general idea, and it does vary, and sometimes the overages, you get paid at what you pay. Sometimes you get paid less than you pay, which is a bit odd. But so it sort of depends where you are. But the big picture is typically they are a great investment. And so if you can get that loan, or you can buy them up front, then 5, 6, 7 years, you've got free electricity for decades. What were you going to say, Mickey?
I have a question. I just saw it on the feed. Someone was saying, if you're not a homeowner, like how do you do solar? And I know that you have a sort of solution for that.
Yes. Well, it depends. So there's something called community solar, which is awesome, which is unfortunately not everywhere, and hopefully we'll see a bunch more of that. And so what site? I think we use Energy Sage to find that, but there's a way of figuring out. It's a little bit more sort of northeast in the U.S., but community solar, which is interesting to understand it, period. Community solar is basically a developer will find a place locally and build a solar farm. And then you sign up with them, and you own a piece of it. And
So
then
cool.
they send electricity to the utility, and then the utility credits you back. And so it's a way as a renter that you can get green electricity, and you can also move with it. And it tends to save you money immediately. So it's an absolute no-brainer. And it's strange living in California that there wouldn't be a better situation for it here, but there just isn't yet. But that's a really good one. The other alternative, if you are a renter, is in terms of getting renewable energy, is to buy it through your utility if you control your power bill. And so,
yeah, that was shocking. You can go to anyone that's in LA. You can go to LA DWP and click. It's like the little button on the side, but you click the green energy button, and then you can get your energy from the windmills in Palm Springs.
Yep.
And I mean, it is. I originally had done a post saying that it was the same cost. It is a little bit more, but it's still a great alternative.
You can't pay for peace of mind. In this case, you can. But
I feel like I think you also mentioned in this class, if you're in an apartment building, you can talk to the building owner and have them do the research, because your property value goes up when you have solar panels. Yeah. So it's might be in their best interest. And, you know, this is the part where using your voice as tenants, as consumers, and telling them this would add value is really important. So definitely approach the landlords if you're not a homeowner, or yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And it's good, like, it's good to think about your personal footprint, but really, I'm going to move so I get a little better light here. Really, if you can influence someone else, that counts as well. And so, getting your apartment building, or if you live in a house, your landlord to do it is great. And often they just don't know. They just don't know what the deal is. And so you can, like, with these various sites, Electrum being one, you can actually run a report and basically figure out what the options are, and then share them with the landlord. And so that's a fantastic thing to do. But back to the renewable energy, basically, if you live in the U.S., almost every single you will have the option of going to your utility and selecting a green energy program. They tends to be a little bit tricky because it's often not in their perceived best interest, self-interest to do it, but you can get renewable energy from a utility very often, like almost everywhere. And if you can't, the other option is called renewable energy credits. And so we even offer those on the Carbonauts, but you can get them from TerraPass and others. And so there's always a way that you can green up your energy. So they're basically solar panels on the roof, ideally, that's probably the best move. Community solar, not often offered everywhere, but if you can get it, terrific. Buy renewable energy directly from your utility if you can, and if not, buy REC. And so that'll take care of, like, often 20, 30+% of your overall footprint. And it's easy. And sometimes it's going to save you or make you some money, like solar. Sometimes it'll cost you a little bit, but it's something that you want to support.
But there's options, which is so. And for everyone watching, when you take the class, you get links, and you do a deeper dive on all of this, but it's really accessible. So please do take this class so that this information and all of the options available, you can find the best one for you. And Graham is available. He teaches the class, and you can ask him questions during it. So I highly recommend that.
Thank you. And I should plug that we're starting. We have 3 classes starting next week. So if anyone is interested, now is the time to sign up.
Do it
at the Carbonauts.
Just do it.
Do it.
What's our next topic? Oh, and this is what I think people are the most interested in this, at least like my friends and family, composting.
Yes.
Everyone's so interested in it, and so am I. And some people say it's the simplest thing ever, but then also it can get really layered and complicated. So, Graham.
Yeah. And a lot of misconceptions about it too.
Lots,
Does
Yeah,
not have to smell.
I like the pun too. layers of compost.
Layer. Oh,
Didn't even realize.
I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Do we want to, before we do that, do we want to hear a little bit from Mickey about her solar install?
Oh, please. Yeah.
You could
That
do it myself.
What's that?
No, that's a lie. I didn't do it myself. Mainly it was Chris, but we have our whole roof is covered in solar panels, which then basically charges our electric car, which is my favorite thing about it. So we've been driving electric car for 5 years now, and we were always having to go and like charge up somewhere else, and then we have this house and we put in a charger, and now it's just all in one, which is pretty amazing. I would love to be able to talk about the logistics of it, but that was not my my area. My area was to do the course and inspire other people, but I'm not gonna lie.
You're nailing it. You're nailing
What? It's all Chris. We should have been on this call. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. Now I'm up in Canada and I have a rental, and I like go to the gas station and I don't know what to do with, like, it's like I've forgotten how to walk a gas pump.
Oh yeah.
That's
Doesn't it feel? I feel
yeah.
like
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a caveman if I get in a gas car and like turn the thing, and you're like, like the whole thing feels like filthy. Ugh.
Yeah.
No, but thank you for reminding me that. I forgot that solar panels and electric cars, because we have that option. We're like not sure what to do about our cars because of you, Graham.
We're
In
just
the
not
best
around
way.
anymore, you know, like
Yeah.
we haven't bought anything yet, but we have prepared our house to be able to have the
that
charger,
option.
to be able to charge our car.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Yeah, you want to, I mean, with the world electrifying, also, like you tend to have, if everything's electric and there's no gas, then you might need a larger panel. And so you want to be thinking ahead. And it's, I mean, they're already, what is it? I think it's 2035 in California at this point, where no more gas cars. Like it's,
Oh.
That's the other thing I was going to say is
are-
like how far away that seemed. And yet here we are, you know, the year of Blade Runner. And it's you know, we're talking about 15 years away, which again is going to go in a blink of an eye. And, you know, you have to be prepared.
Yeah.
and they might move it forward also. I mean, already like
Great.
what's becoming clear, like with people, we've got to move fast. And so
Well, because people put it at 2050 for a while, you know, everyone was saying that. And then, you know, people keep throwing down the gauntlet and making it earlier. So ideally that will still continue to happen.
And we don't have to wait for government regulations. We, the consumers, can see the writing on the wall and start tipping it that way anyway and be ahead of it.
I think that's
Kelsey,
what's also
the
been really,
office.
I think that what's really been interesting also about this time, this you know, reset that it's been called, or, you know, even just such an unfortunate thing happening, but it has raised awareness of the power of the consumer, and realizing that whether it's social justice, or this, I think falls right in with it, is that we can put together a critical mass of people and realize just how powerful not only the word is on social media, but educating people and putting your money where your beliefs are, how quickly we can really, I mean, there's companies that are going bankrupt. There's, you know, just off of flawed business practices or even a misstatement. So if that can happen, then, I mean, just imagine if we can just direct our money to where it makes sense, the changes just come by so much quicker, because communication like this is, we can reach everybody. We're talking, I'm looking down here at comments, and yes, we are looking at them. I know there's a lot of questions. We have people from all over the world, you know, that we are able to reach right now, and they're reaching people and continuing to talk. So that's something that's so different now, that they're not the outliers that are on some commune that are unable to communicate with anybody, that are just trying to change the world. I mean, you know, we're in urban settings doing it.
Yes, absolutely. Agreed on like the power of the citizen, and joining together with the internet is amazing. Also, states versus federal, you know, California has always really led and ended up really pushing things forward, and cities. Like there's the C40, like mayors are very powerful, so they can do things, and they're really joining together. And like I think the C40, they're either doing this or already have done this. They're basically setting their own their own environmental goals together. I did the Al Gore climate reality training, and the leader was this woman, Heidi Harmon from San Luis Obispo, and she's the mayor. And so I just went up and met with her on Friday, and then toured an anaerobic digester yesterday. And it's just like, there are some great models out there. And as people join together and are able to share best practices, we can really get this stuff done. Back to the electric car. Being able to charge from your home is also amazing. An electric car is going to be more efficient and more eco, even if it's charging all the time off coal-based electricity, which some states have a lot of coal still. But if you can charge off solar at home, like that's the best thing. And it's such a cool feeling. You're driving your car around on the sun.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
All right, we're sold. Okay.
I know, Mickey's got that
get rid
glow.
of your gas guzzlers, guys.
Yeah, God, I know. Okay.
Composting.
We can do it. So should we talk about compost?
Yeah, let's do it. So compost, the big idea with composting is that we throw away, by weight, the biggest thing in landfills are organics. So we throw away an unbelievable amount of stuff that can be composted. And the problem with that is it gets picked up by typically gas trucks, carted off to these landfills, not necessarily that close, moved around with bulldozers, etc. And then they decompose anaerobically, and that means without oxygen. And so they create methane, which is basically natural gas. And so it's a real problem. Methane is something, depending on the time frame you look at it, 28 to 85 times as powerful a greenhouse gas as CO2. And so it's a really big deal. And on the other side, if we can actually compost it, then we don't have that effect, and we create a fantastic fertilizer. And so it's something that we really want to do. It's really easy, and we need good fertilizer. Fertilizer is often made with fossil fuels, and so we can replace that. And so you're building great soil, and you guys are all over Kiss the Ground, so you know all about this. There's a big focus on soil. We've done a terrible job with soil over the last 100 years or so, and so this is a great thing that you can literally do at home. You can do it whether you have a backyard or a deck or not. So there are ways you can do it inside, and if you sort of follow the rules, it can be something that doesn't smell, and it's fun.
Yeah,
And,
in my class, there was a couple that live in a New York apartment, and Graham was giving them options for what they can do in their apartment with no yard, no balcony. It's still a possibility.
Yeah. So
we lived in an apartment building in Hollywood for 2 years, and I bought like it was like a little square machine. It looked like an ice cream maker. And we just put our scraps of food there, and then like it heats it up and it grinds it. And like 2 hours later, you have compost, and we just used to put it on our plants inside. Yeah. I mean, we had no garden, no balcony, no space, but we still composted and there's more and more. I'm seeing so many more available now online.
Well, Chris was doing it.
Right? No. Actually, that was what I was. That's how I was contributing to the family. I was good at composting.
Isn't it also just like, for me, my mind has been kind of blown that this like out of sight, out of mind experience of like, I remember when there weren't green bins, and then there are green bins for that you're encouraged to put your compost in, and you're thinking, oh, good, this is going to do something good. And then you learn what Graham just described, that they just cart that to a landfill, and while that's better than putting it maybe in the general trash, ultimately
it's kind of the same thing. It's
kind of like the recycling, where it's just not enough. And so, Mickey, what do you guys do to compost at your place?
I'm up here in Canada, where I've been for the last year. We have a vegetable garden, so we've just been putting sort of all the compost in a little pile in the corner of the garden, and just sort of
letting it do its thing.
But then when I go back to LA, I have to rethink because of animals and, you know, the way it looks. And I don't know, I haven't actually, I'm going to ask you guys what you're doing.
Yeah, we have actually
Right, but-
some cool sub pod is one of the things that we've put in our house. You can actually talk a little bit more. I don't know.
Well,
Why I
right
She's
now,
the one that knows about the sub pod. It's really cool.
well, no, we have plans for our house in LA that we've yet to activate. This company, cool company called Subpod out of Australia that makes it look pretty. It's like a grate where the worms can go through, and then it has a metal thing around it
It's
where
partly
you can plant.
underground. It's partly underground.
Yeah, and it has a
Partly
lid.
up top, so lid, and you put it right in, and then worms can get in.
But right now, while we're with family, we're doing 3 things. We have one compost that it just has a lid, and we dug a hole so that they're underneath it, so we can dump all of our compost in that we want to use for our garden. And then we just dug holes, and this is where we put like poultry bones and, you know, onion skins, citrus skins, stuff that
Cooked
isn't
vegetables, the things that aren't good for your
stuff that's not good for your garden, and we just bury it. So we have just a shovel out there, and every time we take a compost bag out there, we put 4 scoops of dirt on it, and we just bury it into the ground to keep it out of our green bin. And then our favorite part is we have chickens. So we're going to take 3 of our chickens to LA. And they eat.
We have 12 here.
Yeah, we have 12 here.
And they eat all the scraps. I mean, it's amazing what they
They
eat.
eat everything.
And everything we cut, like we have celery or something, you just cut the bottom, and all the leaves of other things that it just goes right out there, and they just.
And then into your eggs, which you eat.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's terrific. Yeah, I love chickens. That's amazing.
Chickens are, our daughter is really into our chickens.
She's the one who takes care of them. She's our Chris, if you will. Chris is getting so much love on this thing. He's not even here.
No.
We have another window. Next time we could have a Chris.
You should. Yeah. I'll just repeat myself with Chris.
No, chickens are really cool. And you can actually, I was watching a YouTube video where he has the chickens in a smallish area, and then he has his compost bin, and he just takes the chickens out and puts the chickens on top of the compost bin, and they just go to work for like an hour, and then he puts them back in the coop, and they're happy.
Oh, that's terrific. Great.
I have one tip about composting though and I'm really bad at it, is taking I'm going to swear, the fucking labels or the plastic labels, fruit and veg, like that should be a policy. Can we
Isn't it the most annoying thing?
Why put plastic stickers on your fruit and vegetables? It drives
Especially things that naturally have a skin, a covering. They're totally fine and annoying. We also find those little stickers everywhere, you know, because you take them off when you're washing
bottom of your shoe,
or they're just right there on the counter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Take off.
So composting, I guess, just to run through the options, of which there are quite a few. One is bokashi for inside, and so that's basically it's a Japanese fermentation technique, and so you can buy bokashi, bokashi, and so you can order those up, and those can actually go inside even in an apartment, and so that's good to know. If you're going to do outside, there are just bury it in the ground. A pretty easy one. They have some plastic's not ideal. They're often recycled plastic, but they have ones just a big garbage can kind of thing that sits on the ground. And then it's connected to the ground so worms can come up from inside. So that's a very simple one. One that works really well and is good for pests and will compost quickly are the rotating ones. And so there's usually is a big barrel on a steel pipe system. You just turn it, and that really makes it easy to rotate. And it usually has 2 sides, and so you do one side and then the other. So those are good. And what else? Important on the green waste. It really depends where you live. Like LA has the green waste bins are good, and they will actually compost them. But it's basically for yard waste. And then I think you can't do any cooked foods. And I think you can do food that went off, but you can't do cooked foods. Anyway, they have weird, But that stuff
That's good
goes.
to know, though, that they will compost like your dead leaves and stuff like that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
Okay.
good. I think most programs with a green bin that will end up in a composting situation. Often though, they don't take your offcuts of your vegetables and your food waste and stuff. One tip that I use to see if you're worried about smell and bugs. So this really depends where you live, but I just put a little container in the freezer.
Oh
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
then it doesn't smell and no bugs. And
That's what we did in Canada, because we had a big freezer in the house, and we would just put our compost there instead of having that little can on the on your countertop. It'll smell, and it was just an open compost bag inside of a brown paper bag, which can go in there as well.
Oh, right.
And just dumped right in, and voila, it was one of the best ways to do it if you have the freezer space.
Yeah. If you have
really great.
Exactly.
I thought you were going to say clothespin. You're like, what I found is really great for the smell. Just get a clothespin.
So composting's great. Reducing food waste also really important, and that's a money saver. Like average American spends $1,600 a year on wasted food, and so being good at not over shopping and not hiding stuff in your fridge to find out that it's gone bad, and doing a little meal planning, thinking ahead, how many people, who's going to be around, etc. That's a great way to. It might be equal to our diets overall. Like they're realizing that food waste is just a very big, has a real impact environmentally. So reducing food waste is also something to think about.
I use an amazing app called MeLime. If you heard of this app, MeLime.
Oh.
Yeah.
So MeLime is they have you basically you can pick like 5 to 8 meals that they have sort of recipes, and then so you pick like for the week what you want to eat, and they're amazing recipes, and it's like gluten-free or keto or vegetarian or like whatever, everything, and then it will create your grocery list and basically build it, and then it will make sure that you're not overbuying because it will have calculated how much you need for the entire week.
It's called Key Lime?
MeLime.
Oh.
MeLime. Yeah, and it's really, really phenomenal. And planning. I just said planning. That's the key. But this app makes planning like super easy. And if you're not good at math like me, it just does everything for you.
That's awesome.
That's a really good tip, because we definitely have food anxiety, on multiple levels about how can we be eating what's healthy for our bodies, what's healthy for our planet, and not overbuying, which is very easy to do if you're not a great cook, which I'm really trying to teach myself how, but I'm still not great.
You're an amazing cook.
She really is.
Thank you, guys.
I love coming to you.
I'm still learning. And my
she was crap when we first got together. I mean, she couldn't do anything, and I was the cook, and now I'm lazy and I hardly cook.
It's true. It's true.
She's good now. She really is.
I'm getting better, but it's so easy for me to overbuy. So I try to, and we buy from a farm, so I have to be really thoughtful about what we're sourcing. But Graham, I feel like this is like the perfect segue into what's the percentages of things that should be on your plate that's good for our planet, because that was really interesting.
Yeah, so some people don't like this part, but yeah, the actual carbon footprint, and with the Carbonauts, that's our through line, and so that's what we tend to focus on. But it's not huge. Your footprint of food is not huge. But it definitely is something, and there are other significant reasons why you would want to try to reduce meat eating in general. I guess the headline, though, is that just beef and lamb are the big ones by far, by like a lot more. So, so we were going to do, I forgot we were going to do the quiz.
Yeah.
I guess people could do it in the comments. So this can be
this is interactive.
So here's the question. If beef is 100 units of like emissions, okay, it's a hypothetical question. If beef was 100, then what is chicken and what is beans? So we want numbers.
Okay, we'll be quiet. People.
Let's see if anyone's listening. So if beef is 100, what's chicken? So a number for chicken, and what's beans? A number for beans.
As far as carbon footprint?
Yeah, 100 watt. Oh, okay. Carbon
I
footprint.
mean, it's more hypothetical. But so if beef was 100 tons, which is not, then it's more relative to each other.
100x.
Yeah. So if beef is 100, what is chicken? And
evidently, caipirinha is one of the answers.
Yeah, I'm like, I wish I could say that.
Do you know it in Portuguese?
In Portuguese, but I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I know it.
Okay, we got 30 beans. Beans is 0 and chicken is 10.
Beans 0. Okay, someone gets 30 beans.
Hi from Iran.
Yeah.
Beef 100, chicken 75, beans 50.
Chicken
20, beans 0.
Chicken is 50,000. Okay, 80. Just question.
Chicken 75, beans 25.
Okay.
Pizza.
Yum.
Brazil again. Hi Brazil.
Lots of Brazil.
Ciao Brasil.
Chicken 20, beans 5.
Okay.
Chicken 95, beans 30.
These are good guesses, guys.
Some good guesses in here for sure.
Thank you for playing.
Yeah, Portuguese up in the house. Huh?
No chicken send kits. Okay.
What is
the reveal? Okay, the big reveal. Beef 100, chicken 10, so 1/10. Beans 1, another. So if you're in line for a taco and there's the beef taco or a bean taco, the beef taco is equivalent to 100. 100 bean taco is equal to 1 beef taco. And so, so that's the big one. If you can cut the big ones are beef, lamb, and dairy, but we probably eat less dairy. So those are the big ones. And so if you can sort of try to get those out of your life or make it, just treat them as they're special. That's a good way to help reduce your overall footprint.
Well, what about beans on the back end in the methane? Have we figured that in, Graham?
Yeah,
Kelsey's face right now.
That's a good point.
Hi, Ever. Our daughter's watching.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Ever.
So yeah.
No,
so
that's shocking.
Diet. Yeah, beef is really the big one. So we can make a lot of moves there. There are, so in general, moving toward the plant-rich diet, there are many advantages. One is definitely health. Proven again and again that vegetarians, if done right, of course, are healthier. Animal cruelty, frankly, I'm amazed. I think it illustrates, certainly to myself, the power of denial. The fact that most of us have seen the pictures. Most meat comes from factory farms. It's brutal. And to think forward like 15 years and of us looking back and just being horrified at how we lived, I think is a pretty realistic thing to do. Like it's a really horrible situation.
Well, Graham, can I ask you, when you have those numbers with beef and all that, is that also, we're talking about commercialized farming and the way that's done, where beef is being transported long distances and being done in big factory processing plants and then carted about and all the other things that go along with it and feedlots and that's not necessarily talking about other models that are in the works.
However,
regenerative agriculture and farming.
It does seem like a reduction in beef is important overall. Like, even though we now source our protein from regenerative farms where cows have a high quality life, they're killed humanely, they get a ton of nutrients.
They're processed locally.
Right. So, but what I was really blown away with your class, and Dr. Mark Hyman repeats this, is 75, if you do eat meat, 75% of your plate should be plant-based, and 25% can be your protein, which is totally different than the meat and potatoes kind of American diet. And so that if protein's a part of your life, and I loved your examples in the class of like, what are all the different names that you can call yourself if you don't eat meat on the weekends or,
that was great. I can't remember what I was.
Really clever names.
So we had, so a couple of points on all that. So one, I mean, the main point, for most people, it's not easy to get regen ag beef.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you can, it is different, and it's possible that we will see a hamburger that's actually good for the planet overall, which is great. In general, though, it's also just a very inefficient way. The most inefficient way to get a calorie into your body is to have it come through beef. So, you know, overall, it probably doesn't make a ton of sense. And so we should treat it as a special thing that it is. And if you could get it from Regen Farm, you know, that's a different scenario, and that's awesome. Okay, the different diets. So we had, I did a TED Talk years ago called Weekday Vegetarian. And the premise there was simply that we shouldn't let, I was trying to be pragmatic. We shouldn't let perfect be the enemy of the good. And I just felt that for some people, eating their last hamburger or their last steak was just unrealistic. And so the idea behind Weekday Vegetarian is all in the name. Basically, during the week, you're a vegetarian. During the weekend, you can eat meat. I do that. And now I try to also really minimize, even on the weekend, try to minimize, make beef really, really rare. And so that's a good one. The main thing is, though, to try to come up with something that works for you. So we had a whole bunch of different ideas. One was, now I'm going to forget all of them. Street meter was one.
Yeah.
That could be the street. You know, you could be like daytime vegan. Like just slice it in a way that works for you. Oh, the deco cards. The idea there was portion control, or not control, but just thinking about portions. So like the two levers you have are frequency, how often you eat meat, but also you have how much meat you eat when you eat it.
Right.
And half century ago, it used to be much more the garnish, much more of a special thing, like the side dish, and it's expanded to become this really the centerpiece, basically. And so one way to reduce your meat eating is to reduce the amount you eat when you eat it. And so that's definitely a good one. What other points were there in there about diet? I think that
People
was it.
I've seen them ask too, like, how can I get protein without eating meat? And I mean, you know, there's so many amazing nutritionists and dietitians out there, but the bean reference is a really great one because you can get a lot of protein.
Quinoa, legumes.
So find a dietitian or nutrition that you can follow or that inspires you, that gives you good vegetarian options, so that your health can still be paramount, but you can be mindful of the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think and you have to remember that they're all industry marketing groups that have been trying to sell us whatever since the beginning of time, and so they make you feel. So the protein thing itself is probably a little bit overblown, and there's certain ways of doing it. And I don't know. Game Changers is a great documentary if you're interested in looking at vegetarianism. All these incredible athletes who are vegan, or at least vegan, I think. So you can definitely be a very powerful, healthy person eating vegetables. So there's definitely a way to do it.
I hate to be to do this, but I it's 6 o'clock and I have to run.
We're gonna lose. Instagram is gonna shut us off. So thank you for saying this, so we don't immediately get disconnected.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
cool.
I'm gonna go, but are we gonna put? Are we recording this? Can we post it?
Yeah, Nick will post this on his Instagram, and everyone watching now and later, we're gonna do a part 2 of this to cover. Sorry, that's 1, 2.
2 twos.
2. Okay. We're gonna do another one of these, and we're really excited about doing that so we can cover some of the other points.
Great.
But Graham, one more last lead out about Carbonauts and where everyone can sign up for your class.
Thecarbonauts.com, and literally, I think 3 classes starting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week, and we would love to have you. It's as low as $39. It's sliding scale based on household income, and we would love to see you.
And the Carbonauts is their Instagram.
Yes.
Give them a follow. There's lots of good tips on there too.
Yes.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I can't wait to do this again.
Thanks, guys.
You're almost at
guys.
isolation,
So
Nikki.
good to
You've
see
almost
you.
done it.
I did it.
We believe
Bye.
in you, Mickey.
See you later. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Hang in there.